So in the last few days, yesterday, we had someone rob a car, and in that car was a small child. And the guards, subsequently, the child has been recovered, or the child has been found anyway, and returned to their parents, right? Or returned to her parents. But the reason I'm talking about this is because of the reaction to, or the reaction from the guards, right? In terms of the release of information. If you remember, it's hard to pinpoint times exactly now. But the last week or two, there was the story of what turned out to be an Indian man who attempted to pick up a child and walk away with them, only to be stopped, and all was well, right? And the Gardaí involved in that case had asked for the judge to rule out any revealing information around that person's identity. Subsequently, it turns out that that person was of Indian descent or Pakistani descent. It looked from Indian sort of look, name, complexion, all the rest of it, right? So the Gardaí put efforts into making sure that that person's identity was not revealed, given the, quote, current climate of society, right, or the current climate in Ireland. Here, however, you see a different approach being taken. And we listen to the guard say it himself, right?
On patrol and searching for the vehicle. The suspect in this case is best described at this stage as a white, middle-aged male wearing dark clothing and a baseball cap.
So in this instance, for whatever reasons, the Gardaí are perfectly open and willing to share the identity of the person, or to share the race of the person. When not so long ago, a week or two ago, they went to significant effort to try and convince the court or to convince the judge to not release such information, or to withhold that information, or to stop that information from coming out, right? So either there's a massive split in the Gardaí, where you have some who are taking one approach to something and others who are taking an entirely different approach, in which case you have two factions, if not more, of the law enforcement body in Ireland who are doing things based on some sort of personal preference or some sort of perceived obligation that they have to something that is directing them to do it, right? So it's not an objective application of justice or an objective policy being implemented by the guards, right? Which is worrying enough. In addition to that, because the argument could be made that they're releasing this information because the case was active and ongoing, right? So the pursuit of, or the search of this person or for this person was ongoing, therefore releasing information that could lead to this person being apprehended was pivotal to what's going on. Fair enough. And you can make the argument then that the other case involving the Indian man was after been sealed off and finished, right? So he'd been arrested, the child had been returned, and therefore there was no ongoing present danger to anybody. Therefore, releasing the man's identity or releasing identifying characteristics about the man, there was no need of it, other than to maybe stoke fire or to add to the current climate in Ireland. Okay? But whatever way you cut it, how this is being perceived and how this probably will be perceived by a lot of people is that the Gardaí are engaged in a racial-based approach to how they conduct investigations and how they release, or to what level they release information to the public based on race. There's other instances that I won't touch on now, but there's other instances of the Gardaí or sections of the Gardaí engaged in similar sort of two-pronged approach to different scenarios and different situations. So this is dangerous, because instead of just relaying the facts as you get them and as it is I suppose, reasonable to release them to the public if there ever is a case to withhold it anyway. But instead of just releasing things, having a standard and adhering to that standard. So we will release information of suspects regardless, right? What's going to, I suppose, a consequence of this sort of action of, well, if they're of this race, we won't release information. We'll ask courts to withhold that, and if they're of another race, well, then we'll freely open the book, so to speak, and open up the information to the public. So what that does now is creates a situation where if information is not revealed about the identity of somebody, people are probably going to naturally conclude or presume that the person they're speaking about is not Irish. Okay? And if they do reveal the information, well, then it's a white person. Then you're given that it's a white person. You've been told. And it's a crazy situation to set up because you have people now becoming overly suspicious of the Gardai, how they're approaching things, and also there's the potential for a game being played here too, where the Gardai would be able to stoke public hostilities towards any given sort of race they want, because all they would have to do moving forward is to withhold the identities of people or to try and minimize the release of revealing information of characteristics of people, and people then will naturally assume that the people they're talking about are not Irish, even if they are. Media game that's going on here, whether it's intentional or whether it's inadvertent. Either way, the impact of it is going to sow even more of a divide and more hostility between different ethnic groups, when it need not be the case. Okay, you could just release information and let people deal with the truth as it comes, and let them decide and come up with their own conclusions based on the facts, instead of opening up the window for people to assume that because X wasn't given, therefore it must be Y, right? So silly game being played by the guards here.